arrived? You're not on the road any longer?
No, we got here maybe 20 minutes ago. So.
Yay.
Oh my goodness.
Well, I'm glad you're there. And I know you're ready to get finished with this. So.
Oh, this is not a problem. This is our civic duty. We're going to execute it. No problem. Do we have enough people here so that we can start right on time? I think everybody's here, right? At 6 o'clock?
Yes, it's 6 o'clock and I've just gone live.
Everybody's here.
Okay, fantastic. It being 6 o'clock, I'd like to call this special call meeting to order of the Augusta-Richmond County Board of Elections. As you noticed, there's only one item on our agenda tonight, and that item is to discuss the setting of the date and time and place of the recount of the votes cast by Richmond County voters for the office of President of the United States during the conduct of the November 3rd, 2020 general election. I do believe that in order for us to do this, it would be advisable for us to have a motion to allow the staff to execute this recount. And if there is no objection, I would love to take a motion for the same.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we have the authorize the staff to carry out the recount.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded that we allow the staff to that we authorize the staff to execute this the recount of the office of President of the United States during the conduct of the November 3rd general election. Lynn, do you have anything for us tonight?
I do. Just a couple of things. Okay. I'd like to give just a little bit of background, just to brief everybody of things that we found out today, things that will, I think, be important for everyone to know as we move forward into the recount. And then also would like to go back and visit the motion once we finish the discussion, and let's talk about the exact date that we would be authorized to start. So if I may, I'll just go ahead and go with it, and then just feel free to ask any questions.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you. So just real quick, I wanted to take just a moment and make sure that we all understand the difference between the audit that we did last week and the recount that we will embark on later. The audit that we did last week was a full manual hand count audit of the votes cast, and the purpose of that audit was to ensure that the tabulation software and equipment was properly tabulating our votes, which the audit very well demonstrated in every county in Georgia that conducted their audit. We did have some slight changes in vote totals, but for the most part, the system overwhelmingly confirmed that the software was doing its job and tabulating votes properly on election night. So that is great. So we went through that exercise. The county certified, the Secretary of State certified. And as we all know, once the election is certified, when you have a race that's this close, as this one was, which was, I think, 0.3 of a percentage point, but if it only has to meet the threshold of being 0.5% to be eligible for a recount. So Mr. Trump's campaign asked for and was granted a recount. He's entitled to get it based on the slim margin there. And so that's what we'll be doing once we get started. A couple of things to know about the recount. Number one, the only thing that we're looking at is President of the United States. We are not looking at U.S. Senate, either race. We're not looking at Public Service Commissioner. We're looking just at President of the United States. Number two, the recount will not involve any type of signature verification that we've heard so much about over the last week or so. We are simply going to take the paper ballots that were cast by voters that we tabulated on November 3rd. We're running them back through scanners to confirm the vote totals that we saw on election night. We will have 4 scanners that we'll use to do that. So we'll have 4 different individuals who will be doing that. And for those of you who may have popped into the Bell Auditorium when we were doing the audit, you'll recall that there was an ocean of people out on the Bell Auditorium floor. We had 100 people out there working, doing that process. You won't see anything like that in the recount. It'll be a small group We'll be at our warehouse doing it because we have to be in direct contact with and have our tabulation system there with us, and that's where it's housed. So we'll do all of this at the warehouse using the 4 scanners. Vote review panels will be in place just like they always are to review any ballots that are kicked out as containing an overvote. Now, keep in mind, again, we're only reviewing the office of president, so the likelihood of there being an overvoted ballot is pretty slim, although I'm sure there will be on the hand marked paper ballots, and those will come over to vote review panel to review. Also, the vote review panel will be looking at any write-in votes that are cast with fresh eyes to see if it's a valid write-in candidate or if it's an invalid write-in candidate, and they'll keep track of that on the vote review panel. And they will also, if they should run across a ballot that was somehow damaged during the audit just from human handling of the pieces of paper, we may run into instances where those ballots will have to be duplicated in order to go through the scanner. So the vote review panel will be doing all 3 of those things, looking at overvotes, looking at write-ins, and duplicating any ballots that may need to be duplicated. We know that we must be complete with our audit. We must be finished with it by midnight on Wednesday, December the 2nd. We will, at the conclusion of this meeting, we'll advertise the date, time, and place of the beginning of the recount on our website, and we'll send that on up to Atlanta to the Secretary of States for them to do the same on theirs. This you might find interesting. I did. We have brand new recount procedures in place because we have a new voting system, and so it required a change in practice of how we do these things. And so the first thing that we do when we start the recount is we're going to pull a test deck, and we're going to test the scanners that we're going to use using that test deck. But the test deck is actually pulled from live ballots that were cast on election day. And so the law is very specific. It says we have to have at least 75 ballots that were marked using the machine. So that could be during early voting or election day, and 25 that were marked by hand, so ballots by mail. And we have to touch at least 3 precincts when we do that. And so we'll go through a process at the very onset of the recount where we'll go out and retrieve the ballots that'll make up the test deck. We'll run the test deck, and then we'll remove those ballots or return them to their home precinct so they'll be ready to recount when we get to them with the process. Political monitors. Each political party is entitled to have 2 monitors there. Also, each candidate for president is entitled to be there or to appoint a delegate in their place. And so there could be a total of 3 monitors from each major political party that would be entitled to have representation in the room. And of course, those monitors, just like during the audit process, have full poll watcher privileges. So they can go unfettered anywhere in the room. Of course, they can't touch ballots. They can't talk to people that are doing their work, but they can certainly observe anything that's going on. Public observers and media are also entitled to be there. But you all know our warehouse space. We have that one observation room there, and we'll start off using that. We have identified a very small overflow space within the room itself, but it will be limited. So we may find ourselves in the position of rotating observers in and out of the room, but it's a bridge we'll cross when we get to it. I know when we did the audit 2 weeks ago, we never had more than 3 or 4 observers in the room, and maybe 1 or 2 media folks at one given time. So we'll just kind of cross that bridge when we get to it and be prepared for it as well as we can. Once the recount is complete, we will then upload the results of the recount into the Secretary of State's election night reporting system, just like we do on election night. If the results should change, and they likely will, because we're recounting 87,530 ballots, we're likely to see some subtle changes in there, then the board will need to reconvene following the recount to recertify based on the new results that the recount has divulged. We expect the whole thing to take about 2 days to finish up. And it is our recommendation that we get started on the recount this coming Monday morning, November the 30th at 9 o'clock. We'd like to set the hours from 9 until 6 each day, and just keep on until we're finished up. Would not be surprised, however, to be finished up by around midday or early afternoon on Tuesday. But we certainly have plenty of time, I think, built in there to do that. We spent most of the day today going over the paperwork, because all of that has, I mean, we've gone from basically having very little paperwork to having voluminous amounts of paperwork and chain of custody forms and all the things that go along with paper balloting. So we spent the day today acquainting ourselves with that paperwork, and tomorrow we're going to work on some of the logistics in the room to make sure that we can accommodate folks who may want to be a part of that. And then we're ready to go Monday with the actual recount. So that's the staff recommendation for when we would start and finish.
So Lynn, this, will we have marshal presence at the time of the recount?
Yes, sir.
Would it be possible that, should the need arise, for there to be some sort of a rotation of alternate poll watchers or public viewers to allow the marshal's department to handle that portion of the rotation, so that our staff can concentrate on what they need to concentrate on?
I think that is very likely possible and a good suggestion.
Okay, so that being said, there is a motion and a second on the floor. However, there's a staff recommendation for an amendment to that motion. So I would ask that if Lynn would clarify her amendment to that motion, and then Terrence, who made the initial motion, if he is in agreement with that, to merely accept that recommendation, and then the second, which was Bob, if Bob and or anyone else would like to chime in at that point for a second, so that we can put that item to a vote. So Lynn, if you would clarify your motion for Terrence, should he decide to accept that amendment, and then we'll wait for a second.
Okay, that sounds great. So the staff recommendation is that that we get approval to begin the recount this Monday morning, next coming Monday morning on November the 30th at 9 o'clock in the morning, and that we run daily from 9 until 6 until such time as it's finished, with the objective of being completely finished by midnight on December the 2nd.
December the 2nd.
Wednesday, December the 2nd. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I do accept the recommendation with the revised recommendation. Yeah, that's it. I'll just leave it there.
So there is a motion and an amended, and that motion has been amended with a staff recommendation and a second from Bob. Is there any other discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign? Motion carries. Lynn, is there anything else that is necessary for the board at this point?
No, sir, not unless anyone has any questions on procedure or anything with the recount. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
I would suggest that if there are questions with respect to procedure and or any other operational aspect of the recount, it may be best for a full explanation to be done either in person or via phone outside of this meeting.
Okay.
Okay, fine.
That being said, if there is nothing else for us to handle tonight or no other discussion, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we adjourn, and all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? I don't think there'll be any. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy
everyone.
Thanksgiving.
Happy
Yes.
Thanksgiving, everybody.
God bless you all.
You
God
too.
bless
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night,
Thank you.
everybody. All right.
Good night.